Hi, this is Lynn Schnepley with Educating with Wisdom, and I'm the ambassador for Heaven's creating and protecting goddesses and archangels over life. So we're going to look at moving the Shabbat, leaving the Christian tradition of the Shabbat, because Christians, Rome didn't really have a Shabbat. Rome had a day of rest, and a day of rest is not really what the Shabbat was about. The Shabbat was supposed to be the recognition of not just creation, but it was also God's plan and God's covenant with humanity, especially after the flood. And as I covered in another text, the flood is not just something that happened in that particular region. There are Native Americans that have traditions that they were brought up into like a spaceship and hovered above the waters, and other people were saved. And then there's a tradition here within the Lost Book, within the Nag Hammadi library, that Jesus is saying that they were brought up into and hovered above the clouds with other people, with the immovable race. Now, I've already read that, and what I want to get in today is with the Shabbat, because I've already covered these other things. And with the Shabbat, it has to do with more than a day of rest. It's a day of rest, but it's also a day of contemplation, being a mensch, being understanding what Adam was about. Adam is a male and female entity. It isn't just male, it isn't just female. It's the male and female entity, how it comes together and how it serves earth for heaven. So the whole deal is, how do we develop earth and the animal people, because right now we're just the beast worshiping people, the animal people, so that heaven and space can begin to integrate and work with earth. And if you think about our behavior, you have to understand that nobody in space actually wants to have anything to do with us, because our behavior is so bad. I mean, we can't possibly go up and be on a planet. We pollute things. The guys would be trying to have sex with other creatures. I mean, you act like the fallen angels. There you go. So the fallen angels, when you think of fallen angels, think of Apollo and Zeus and all of these, because they're really demonic. The Shabbat. The Shabbat is about that Noahide law. It's about the rainbow, and the rainbow has 7 different elements in it, and that rainbow is a sign of the covenant that we will not destroy you, humanity, if you can follow these laws. And none of the churches or anyone's actually teaching them. There are a few that are trying to follow them, but generally speaking, no one of the churches taught them. So the Shabbat means covenant, and it's the goddess, the Shabbat, which is actually Habet, the goddess over heaven and earth. And I'm going to introduce you to the goddess Nut, which is a pre-Horus, the one who gives birth to them, because she's actually linked to Aquarius. As we talk about the Shabbat, there's been a problem with some people out of Africa who believe that Sunday worship is about Horus worship, is about being Egypt and Africa and all these things. Well, the Egyptians had a 10-day week, and they had a day of rest on day 9. So they did not have a day of rest on Sunday. Day 10 was not Sunday. All right? It just wasn't. And we're going to go in and take a peek at that. Before I leave me here, I'm going to go to page 183. I'll tell you what gospel we're looking at. The Catholic Church and a lot of the Christian churches are going to tell you, don't do this, but they will all admit that the Gospels have been rewritten and edited and rewritten. Like Mark is really the oldest, and some of these are older than Mark. Here we go. The origin of the world. Do I agree with all of this? No, but it's interesting about 183. So I'm going to read that to you, because this is tying into Daniel 7 through 12, as well as Revelations, and Micah 4 and 5. Now the first Adam, Adam of light, is spirit endowed and appeared on the first day, the spirit endowed. The second Adam is soul endowed and appeared on the sixth day. That's the day of Aphrodite. The third Adam, remember Aphrodite is Venus, is actually masculine. The third Adam is a creature of the earth. That is the man of the law. And he appeared on the eighth day. The eighth day would then be the Sunday. The tranquility of poverty, which is called Sunday. The progeny of the earthly Adam became numerous and was completed, and produced within itself every kind of scientific information about us, and the soul-endowed Adam, but all were in ignorance. Oh gee. So the eighth day, the Sunday, they consider this the day of depravity and poverty. So let's go in and see what Jesus actually had to say. Because what happened is that Rome had put that day aside for their god of sun worshiping. So let's go and take a peek. Remember, Egypt had a day of rest every 10 days. And that's not a day of Shabbat to remember our covenant with God regarding the flood and what those 7 laws are supposed to be like and how that is related to the rainbow, the 7 elements of that rainbow. So let's close out of me. One of the things that the church uses, of course, is that Christ rose on Sunday. Well, that's when they say he rose, all right? But Jesus never said to worship on Sunday. And the Nazarenes all worshiped on Saturday, but they were also exterminated. And what was left were Christians, which were Greek and Roman in terms of polytheism. One of the things they look at is this Mark 21, which is tied into Matthew 12:1. I think there's a Luke. And it talks about how Jesus and his followers are walking through the field of grain, all right? And began picking and eating. So let's go to Matthew. I have to put you on pause. And at the time, Jesus went through the grains of fields on the Shabbat. Remember, this is supposed to be the 7th day, the oath, that relationship, and related to what happened with Noah and the rainbow, our laws. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. Oh, when the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Shabbat." Oh. Okay. Let's take a look at that. They use an analogy of David, and they're using an analogy. This is not his field, by the way. This is not his field. Ask yourself the following. Well, first of all, in more than Deuteronomy, it doesn't say there are other aspects of the law that tell people that if you're hungry and if you're poor or if you're visiting, you can eat along the outside the outside. All right? You can eat along the outside. And widows and visitors could eat just along the outside. Also, when they harvested, they had to leave what landed on the ground so that the widows and the poor could go through and get some of that. That was permissible. But they're wandering through somebody's fields on a Shabbat, and nobody is there to really protect the farmer's fields. Why would Jesus do that? I mean, you have to ask yourself. Jesus' followers did have some money. They did have different places to stay in. So why would they wander through someone's fields on a Shabbat when there is no one around to do this? And when he brings up David, David was not always right all the time. So if this is somebody who is supposed to do something right and you're using him walking through somebody's field, and we're not talking about during the week when nobody's around to sort of watch what's happening. We're talking about on the Shabbat when people are supposed to be resting and remembering and not stealing and not taking and not playing and mocking the law. Now, if Jesus had done that, Jesus would be wrong. And here's the other thing. You are required, if you are able-bodied and a free man in Judaism, you are required to be able to support yourself. Not go around and just, on the Sabbath, eat somebody else's food. This is a very bad argument, one of the very bad arguments that the church has used for not following a Shabbat and teaching the Noahide, the Noahide laws. The church has not done this, and the church is wrong. Let's go in now. Hopefully I can get into, and there's a few there, and each one of those citations are weak. And I honestly, although I tell you the Jews are really Ammonites, even the Ammonites should have been able, the Ammonites are, but why hasn't anybody called them on that? That this just makes no sense. That would just be bad behavior. Just really bad behavior. A lot of women supported them, which is really drives me up a wall. Women are always supporting men. But this is probably didn't happen. Yeah. Let's go in and see if we can get at this one. Oh, here we go, the hill. Oh, why did that pop out there? I did not want to see that. Okay. Celebrating the seasons, the Egyptian calendar. I hope we get this. Oh, maybe not. All right. The Egyptian calendar was a civil calendar. It's 365-day year, and the year consisted of 3 seasons of 120 each. All right. It dealt with the Nile, the flooding. We have 4 seasons. They worked with 3. These 12 months, each month was divided into 3 10-day periods known as this. And at the end of that, after 9 days on day 10, they took that time off. This is Nut, the sky goddess Nut. Notice the little people are the stars, but she's also letting you know there's life in there. She is the water bearer. There are 3 squiggly lines that work with her, and we're going to think of her as an Aquarius. She's not involved in war. She gives rebirth to life, and she rebirths the sun. The work week was 9 days long, followed by 1 day of rest. Again, this is not sun worshiping. Let's go back to this. In Egypt, so those people that are looking at African liberation theology and all of these things, they did not worship on Sunday. Nope. All right? Now, why is this a problem? Well, here we go. The Catholic Church is actually Helios, who was a slut. Helios really was a slut god, as was Apollo and Zeus and Saint Bernard. Oh wow, that's such a great picture. Where is that picture? Whoops. This is who Amen Zeus. Right, this is Zeus. Notice he has the ram's ears. Zeus is really Mars. And this is part of the designation for Jews. They were known as the people with the ram's ears. When they say Maliki Zadok, they mean my God is Jupiter, because Zadok is Jupiter. And this is what they believed in, and this is what the Greeks believed in. When they said that this was Zeus for Jupiter, as you can tell, this developed during the epoch of the about 2,100 year reign of Aries, the age of Aries. Just as we've been in Pisces and now we're in Aquarius, this was the reign of Aries. This is clearly not Jupiter, this is clearly Aries. And it was a very warlike, bad age. Okay, so here we go, here. The twofold knowledge, Saint Bernard is found in the Lost Book of Nostradamus. I'll see if I can find that for you. And we have let's read it. Wow. Consider most of all, you are the brother of those who love God. Consider most of all the Holy Roman over which you preside on the authority of God is the mother of the churches, not the mistress, and you are the master of the bishops. You are not the master of the bishops, but one of them. Thus, a brother of all those who love God, and a follower of those who fear God. Now that doesn't sound so bad. Let's move down. Consider furthermore that you ought to be the model of justice, the mirror of holiness, and the exemplar of piety. That means you should tell the truth. They didn't. The protector of truth. They didn't. The friend of the bridegroom, the priest of the Most High, and the vicar of Christ. Who is Christ? The anointed of the Lord, and finally, the God of Pharaoh. Let's read that again. The God of Pharaoh. The God of Pharaoh. Who is the God of Pharaoh? Horus. Horus is a little twit compared to Nut. She's over the stars and the constellations. She helps to bring you, which is what I warned you about. We're going to take you. When you're done, you're going to learn your lessons. We're not going to allow you to destroy the earth. We will pick you up and we will put you into other parts. We will break you apart so that you can't do this together. And you'll be in some other part of the galaxy, in some other form of a life. And you're going to learn your lessons that way. But you won't be doing it together. And you're not going to like it. Bad church. I have been so devastated for the last, I would say, 2.5 years with everything I've learned about the church. And then there's my government. I mean, I knew that they could read what was happening going on. But then when I found the research online, and when the FBI man, when I said, How do they know what I'm doing when there are no cameras around? And he said, oh, we know what you're doing. Yeah, they read the Wi-Fi as it bounces right off your body. They've practiced reading the brain waves because it gives off a different thing. And they can read that as well with their really super duper psychocomputers. Micah discussed this. Incredible where you are at. It's incredible. We are to have a 7-day Shabbat. It's that simple. You are to know what the Noahide laws are. This is a global thing, and it's the only way you're going to straighten out what's happening. And if you don't do it, and if you don't have sign on, because that is the one thing God put down for everybody, you can keep your own names. I don't care if you're Kuan Yin. I don't care whatever names you have there. You still have to keep that. I don't care. Because goodness knows, Christianity does not have all the answers. All right? And with that Noahide law and with the Shabbat, a lot of Hindus and a lot of Jains and other people will find that they want to do that. That is actually very much a part of their higher order of being Hindus. So this is actually a good thing. Merry Christmas. Let's turn me off.